Welcome, valued SmartBuild customers, to our webinar for version 1.94. Some of you may be new here, so what we're going to do today is we schedule about an hour, and Sean McFeely, our product manager, will walk you through the new features in the release that's coming out live in version 1.94. He'll probably say a few words as well about what's coming up in the next release. I know there's some enhancement related to attic trusses for post-frame structures. But our protocol as we go through this process today is we're going to keep everybody muted, so it's not too much of a Tower of Babel here with people just hopping in. But as we're going along, we want you to ask questions, and the way to do that is to hit the chat button in the upper right-hand corner, and you're welcome to go there and ask any questions or even make comments. We welcome those as well, and we'll have somebody field those questions, and they will text them to Sean, so that way he'll be listening and he can hear your questions real time. So we urge you to do that if you have questions as he's going through these features. Okay. And then what we always do at the tail end is we always save time. In fact, the presentation usually lasts only about 35 minutes or so, because we want to save a lot of time for open discussion and question and answer. So if you have some things that are on your mind you want to discuss, that's always a very, very lively session, and we always look forward to it. And please do keep in mind that with SmartBuild, we like to think that we're very customer oriented. We decide what we're going to program on next based on consensus from requests that we get from our customers. Some things are pretty evident, and sometimes there's a groundswell. So over the last year, we focused a lot on interiors for barn dominiums because it was pretty apparent that 90+% of our customers really wanted that. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are little nuances. So it's important for you to to make your voice heard. And when we get requests, by the way, we don't lose them or discard them. We maintain them electronically, and that helps us track what people want. Pursuant to that topic, I want to bring up something just briefly, because I'd like all of our customers to think about it. And I wrote about it in our newsletter, and I got probably a better response to the last newsletter about this topic than any topic I had similarly brought up in the past. We're thinking about implementing a window and door configurator within SmartBuild, so that rather than just having a static part number in a static product, right? We know that the window and door manufacturers, and we visited with several of them, have all these combinations of windows and doors they can make. So with the configurator, the way that would work is we would have multiple categories, like dimension might be one, pattern on a door might be another, color might be another, and then within each category there'd be a number of variables you can select from. So the way the configurator would work was if you have a custom window or door design you want, you could go through this selection process, and SmartBuild would hopefully build a picture of that thing, as well as creating a description that ultimately could be sent to the window or door manufacturer that would tell them exactly what to make. And so anyway, we're thinking about doing that. It wouldn't make the current part number system go away. In fact, if you had a part number that identified a very unique window or door, it would actually be able to feed into this configurator, because the results would be one and the same. In other words, when you designed a new custom window or door live, it'll create a part number, which you could then save. That way you wouldn't have to design it each time. You could just call it up from your inventory. So I just bring that up and I describe it because I'd like you all to think about it, and let us know, let our team know, let me know if you have some thoughts about that. So having said that, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Sean, and I hope you like what you see in 1.94.
All right, thank you, Keith.
Oh, you got it. Okay, I was going to say you're still.
Few buttons to click here. Okay, yeah, so we have SmartBuild 1.94, and we'll go through a few things. We'll jump into a job here in a minute, but First, I'm going to hop into the settings just real quick. We have a change to the outputs that some of you have requested and might be interested in. So I'm going to go into the outputs. I'm going to add a new output. And this is specifically for the assembly drawings. And actually, I've already added one of these. And so the same thing will happen here, but I'll pull up the one that I've already added. So that's this one here. I'm just going to double click on this one that I added. And what's new here is these two checkboxes that you can omit the skew and you can omit the cut length for this assembly drawing. And I'll demonstrate this once we get into the job. And you'll see what this is. It's like a framing drawing for each wall. And there's a material list in there, and we have the skew and the cut length on there, and we had requests to remove those, just not necessarily helpful to people out in the field. But we'll take a closer look at that, but just wanted to let you know this is how you would set that up, and this is specifically the assembly drawings. There's also a combined assembly drawing, which is a little bit different, but this is only with the assembly drawing. But we'll take a look at that in a second. Yeah, I think I'll just hop back here to my home page and then we'll pull up this job. So I'm going to click on this 194 webinar job that I created. And you will notice this is similar. If you were here last time, this is a similar job. I just made a copy of it. And last time we had added the dormers, the input of dormers. So there is a webinar video that we recorded on our website that goes into inputting dormers. But I already input those here in this job. And with this release, we did add in some of the data, the job data associated with these dormers, so that you can use them on document templates, quote templates, and do various package and assembly calculations based on some of the data that we can get out of this. And I'll jump right into the outputs here, and we'll just take a look at those tokens real quick. I created a document template here, saved it as a PDF, and I just included the new dormer tokens. So for this job, I'm just going to hit download, and then we'll take a quick look at those and just describe what those tokens mean and what they are. So just downloaded that here. I'm going to double click on this and make sure to share this tab. I like to forget to do that, but I'm going to share this output that I just downloaded. So this is a document I created with just the dormer information. And so the first thing here is the dormer list. This is similar to the attached buildings. You are going to get a label of each dormer. If you notice, we had two dormers in that job. One was a shed roof, one was a gable roof. So it's going to describe it here a little bit, the roof pitch, a length and width, the height, any overhangs, and it's going to give some description based on the main building. And then for this one, it was a gable, it's a 212, and I guess happened to be the same length. There will also, if you have attached buildings, it'll include dormers on attached buildings as well. So it'll keep building this list, and it'll let you know that it's attached and give you some relation to the main building. So just a list of the dormers that describes that. This is kind of what we do with the attached buildings, piggybacked off that. If you do want to see other things in here, different information, let us know. We can adjust this. But right now, this is the description that we're going to get here. And then we have more like data that you could use for packages, probably. This one you might put on your quote document just to list out what kind of dormers are there. This going to get square footage of the dormer walls. And this is going to be length and times width, and adding those up for all the dormer walls. The dormer wall partial, this is going to exclude any openings. So this one just kind of ignores the openings. It just includes it in the length and the width. And then the partial is going to get rid of any openings from the square footage. So you have those two different options. Square footage of the roof, all the dormer roofs. This is a number of dormers. So that's just a quantity. There's 2 dormers in this job. And then there is a square footage of the dormers overall. And that's just going to be length and width. And it's going to add those up to give you a total square footage of dormers. So that's what we have now. If you want to see some other information, other data, let us know. This is what we have to work with at the moment. And that is all the new information, the data we have for the dormers at this point. One other thing that I wanted to point out here, I included a few more things here in this particular document template I created. And one of them is this job ID. So in the document template, there is a job ID. So when you output, if you have this job ID token included in the document template and you output it for any given job, it fills in all this job specific data, including this job ID. So each job has an internal job ID in the system, and it can be output here in the document templates. And the reason I mention this is that in this release, you can now go to the job list and you can search on this job ID specifically. And I will try to remember to do that at the end. So I'll demonstrate that, but I just wanted to point out that that is a piece of data that you can get in this document template right now. So that's one way to get this. Also, if I close this, and I think I need to reshare my screen here, so I'll do that real quick. I'm gonna go back to the 3D model. That number is also right here. So it's actually in the web address. And so when we go back to the job list, that's going to be the full job list for all the jobs in your system. You can plug this into the search field, this number, and it's going to pull up this exact job. It's just another way to search and find jobs in that job list. And we'll continue to build on this, but this is just kind of a first step of searching for that job ID. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that one piece of information. That is the new dormer tokens. The next thing that we'll get into here is we've added the ability to have structural doors and windows, which is just a request that we had. And so the way that this worked before is, if we look at this wall over here, all these windows, they're non-structural, they're not interfering with any posts. But if you do move this window, and actually I will do that, so that it cuts into or interferes with a post. And so from left, I'll just add a foot here, make this 45, 8.25. So previously, if you did this, it is going to default to the overhead door settings, is what is happening right now prior to this release. So it's going to look at the settings for overhead doors. We kind of just made an assumption that that would work for doors and windows as well. It's just going to use your overhead doors, which tend to be structural openings. But that is no longer the case in this new release. You can have specific settings and framing for walk doors and windows. And the way we did this, first of all, if you don't do anything or don't change anything when we release this, it's going to work exactly the same. And the reason for that is because we have all the default settings are just set to your overhead door settings, which is what we did before. But now, if we look specifically, here is the walk doors. So we have a non-structural group of settings, and there's a structural group of settings. So that's for the walk doors. Since we're looking here at this window, I'll scroll down because the window window information is down here at the bottom. And so again, we have a non-structural window for post framing and structural window for post framing. So this window here is using these non-structural window post frame settings. These are exactly the same as what you've seen before. This is what's going to be used for any sort of non-structural windows. You can still change these and adjust these same way as before. The new thing here really is the structural window post framing. So if I pull that down, you have the same settings, and you'll see that the majority of these settings are set to match overhead post frame. And that's what happened before. So everything should work the same, but if you do want to get into these and change up how the walk doors or the windows act in structural situations, you can now come and do that. So any of this information, same concept as before, but you can change and adjust these. You can also match the overhead post frame settings, or you can match non-structural post frame if you want. The one thing that is going to come in a little bit different is the jamb bottom. It's going to the panel bottom, because before with overhead doors, you don't really have that jamb bottom. There's nothing that you need to worry about with these bottom of these posts. So the panel bottom just means that these posts are going to the bottom into the foundation here. So that's going to be the default for that particular one setting. You can change that. So you can come in here, you can change any of these. They're going to match overhead by default, but you can change any of this stuff. And one of the things this allows you to do is kind of the thrust of this request was you can now do header high specifically for doors and windows. And this is going to be a little bit different here because we used to have where it's kind of header high was a checkbox. It's either yes or no. And that's the way it is with overhead doors. In this case, we wanted to include this match overhead door post frame. So you can match the settings of the window, the header high settings to match overhead post frame, but you can also just do these individually for windows and walk doors. So if we say yes here, and then we can choose a header high material. I have just this 14-inch web header that I put into my database. And so all these other settings you can also manipulate. We could have multiple plies of this web header. I'll just do a single. So if I do make those changes, I'll hit refresh, and we should see here that we get a web header above this window. And there's some settings associated with how far this goes, but I have this going to the next structural column. So this is running all the way across here. It might be a bit much here for this particular window, but I don't know. So, but that's an option that you have. I do have the interiors in this building, so that's what this truss carrier in the back is here. That's part of my interior wall settings, so we could kind of change that, manipulate that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of the new structural walk doors and windows, and you can now have this header high option for the windows. So I think I'll leave it at that. If you have other questions about that, we can get into it at the end, or you can contact our support and we can help you out with that. Just one thing, we'll kind of jump over to something else here real quick, just so you're aware of this. We have added a new trim type that was requested into this trim margins group. So we have trim margins for specific trim that people have requested. The one that we've added here is this eave edge. And so this is kind of a job just globally for all the eave edge. If I put in this 1 inch, it's going to add an inch to all eave edge trim parts. So all the cut lists, all the cut lengths for this piece of eve edge is going to get an extra 1 inch just across the board. And that may or may not affect what actually gets pulled out of your database if you're using part lengths. If you are using random lengths, then it is just going to kind of add some extra on the eve edge. So in this case, I'll just pull this up real quick. I think a lot of these 1 inches here are coming from this. So if we just get rid of that, let's say, I think we'll see kind of some of those just go away. So this is going to be the actual cut length of the 3D model. When we added that inch, it's going to add in an inch to the actual cut lengths that we figure. So as you can see here now, this one's back to 15. That was 15 and 1 inch. So it's just a way that you have some control over if you need some extra for cuts and things like on the gable edge and some different situations. You can add in this extra trim margin, and this eve edge is new. We've had these before. This is a new one that we had requested. If you have other ones you'd like to see, let us know. We can add those pretty easily at this point. Okay, whoops, I think I'll stay in here actually. So the other thing that we've added in this release is a new job status. And so this was a request as well that we had. Some people use job statuses, others not as much, but we do have the ability to put jobs through kind of a job management process. All jobs started new. This job is in new right now. And I'll go over just quickly kind of what the process is here for the job management. And you can do that in the job. You can also do this on the job list. We can take a look at that, but I'll do it through this job while we're here. But right now, this job is just open. You can make any changes you want. It's in the new status. If we hit this make quote button, it's going to make us save. And so it's going to save this job. It is going to lock this job down. Once you make something a quote, it locks down this price. So it'll tell that to you here. So then you cannot make any changes to this once it's in quoted status. The idea, you have a quote, you want to keep that locked in. And it is going to kick us back to our home page. So here we are at the top of the list. And I have some outputs that get automatically produced once I make it a quote, like a document, a quote document, and some other information. So that's what is happening down there. And you'll see here on the list that there's a new status. It's called make contract. So right now this job is in the status of quoted. And I'll click make contract since we're here. This is going to be the same, like not much actually changes here. It's just a new status to help you kind of keep track of the job where we did a quote and we got a contract, but we're not really ready to order this. If you want to keep track of the differences between quoted versus contracted versus ordered jobs, that is just the purpose of this. Besides that, there's no other real functionality that's going to happen with this. It's going to keep it locked. And so if we say yes, then it's going to kick us into the prep for order status comes up next. So the prep for order status, if we do go back here and view this job, you can edit and make changes to your material list. It doesn't affect the price, but you can change up the quantities of things on your material list. So in a sense, the price is still locked down, but you can go into the job review and you can change up quantities of things that are on your material list. So we could go into the framing and we could change up the quantity of, oh, I guess I did not click that button, did I? So we're still in the contracted status here, but I can click this prep for order here as well. So we will actually put this in the prep for order. It's going to kick me back here, which we might want to change that. It'd be nice to get some feedback on that, but you'll see the next status is make order. I will hit this prep button. That's going to take us back into the job here, just to demonstrate that in the prep for order status, you can go into the job review. you can change up the quantities. The other thing you can do is you can update the price. You can reprice this job using the latest pricing. So if you click on this button, it's going to go look at your latest pricing in the pricing database, and it will update this job's price. So you can keep this locked in, or you can reset that just by clicking this button. I guess maybe might as well do that. It's going to go look and see what my price change is, which I haven't made any changes. So there's actually no update here. I'll just say no. I'll go into this job review real quick and demonstrate what I was trying to do before. You can come in here and click on this, and like we can change up the quantities of this if we want. And then we have the make order button. So that'll change this into an order, and it keeps that locked as well. And I'll just do that real quick. We'll just kind of walk through this. And then you can also close these jobs. And here you can have some sort of an agreement if you have builders that they do have to kind of read through this, and you can let them know that there might be some changes to this job once we take a look at this. So this is optional. You can set something up that has some language and it forces people to kind of accept that. And now we're kind of at the end of the road here, but you can amend. If you amend this, it's going to kick it back into a new status, and you can kind of start all over. Just so you're aware, you can also do save as for jobs. So you can kind of do a process where you hit save as when you're in a job, rename it, keep track of jobs that way. And you can, of course, you can also copy jobs. So some people would have some sort of a project management, kind of job management they use by copying and renaming these. So there are some different options there for managing the jobs. And we'd like, at some point, we'd like to update and kind of improve how that whole process flows. So if you have any requests on that, that would be great. But long story short, in 1.94, we have this new contracted status. And so you will see that here. And actually, I probably don't necessarily have any at this point. But you see we have these different statuses here. So one of those will be contracted if your job is in that state. You can download this list into an Excel file. In case you didn't know, you can also filter here. In contracted will be a new status that you can filter by. And again, this is where you can put in that job ID. And I guess I didn't really save that, but
554644, Sean.
464. Wow, look at you, Mark. Did you remembered that? Genius. Okay, so yeah, I just typed in that number. Once I hit enter, it just pulls up that exact job. So here's that job. So going back to originally with those settings in the outputs, I will go to this job and I'm going to click on the outputs. And here is that assembly drawing with no skew and no cut length. And I'll just download that real quick and we'll take a look at it. And I will share this tab. I'll scroll down from the roof. So with the assembly drawing, you get labels, and it's probably a little bit hard to see here. I might zoom in. So you get labels for each of the pieces, and then you get a separate cut list where you'll get the label, how it's used, the actual material, the quantity, and in this case, just the part length. We used to have the cut length, and we had the skew. We had a specific request that they didn't want to send out the exact cut length because sometimes it might be a little bit different and they didn't want to get into the exact, and they put some responsibility on people in the field to be able to know at least what to pick, but kind of measure twice, cut once. And so we got rid of that cut length in this case, which is optional. You can put it back in. And then we did get rid of the skew, which really is not useful to anybody out in the field. We do want to continue to work on these and make these more useful for the field. If you do have other requests, let us know. We could get rid of this part length and you could include the cut length if some people want to do that. We don't have that right now. This was just a specific request that we followed through on. And if you don't want to see the skew, you could include the cut length and you could just exclude the skew. So you can do either or on that. But that's the assembly drawing. The combined assembly drawings kind of summarize all this. You don't get a full cut list. It just gives you the structural members and tells you what they are. So it's kind of more of a consolidated version of this. But just wanted to demonstrate that, show that. I'll go back here and share this other screen. And yeah, I think that's everything for this particular release. Yeah, like Keith mentioned, next time we do have attic trusses that we're working on right now. Those are going to be, the input, the dimensions, and also the visual in the 3D model. You will see an attic truss show up in the model. And then also we'll have the truss catalog will reflect those attic trusses, so you can save different attic trusses, different sizes of attic trusses, different information, and match those attic trusses exactly in your truss catalog. So that's going to be coming up next time. It's kind of the big item. Quite a few other things will be coming up. We are working on what we're calling a post refactor. This is some technical things that we kind of work on in the background that span multiple sprints potentially, but it's going to give us more flexibility about where posts can be placed and just dealing and handling post and all the different kind of conditions that come up. We've been kind of locked in with the way that we've done it, so we're working to make some more flexibility there. Also, the way that we save jobs, we are working on some changes in the background that's going to be more efficient, and it is going to help us to improve the performance of the site. So those are things that kind of are in the background that we work on. They're harder to demonstrate, but we are making progress and work on those. Yeah, and there's quite a few things that will be coming as well. So tune in next time. And I think that is everything that I wanted to get through here. So any questions that have come in, anything anybody else on SmartBuild wants to add? And we can just open it up for the discussion at this point. Paul or Mark, anything come in?
Yeah, either the chat's not working or no one has had any comments that they put in on the chat. So.
Okay. Well, now's the time. You can either jump in, you can unmute and just ask, or if you want to put in the chat.
Unmuted.
Requests, any questions, anything really you want to talk about. We have Keith is still here. Mark Jones, our technical lead, is here, so this is a good time.
Yeah, we just got a chat from Kevin.
Okay.
I'd like to eventually have a way to that by default that it would not put sheathing on the porch beams.
I think he's talking about that little short piece of sheathing that basically goes over the truss carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Correct.
Hey, I got it right. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, that thin little piece up there at the top. Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Yep. So you can go into advanced edit. Is that true? And
yeah, he would like it to by default. Yeah, he would like it by default not to put that there.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're doing this kind of porch, it makes sense, but I know quite a few people will just stop it right at the bottom and there's no piece here. So that, yeah, that makes sense to just make that easy.
Okay. I think we have a couple of other requests for posts or for porches as well that
Yeah.
those would fit in well with. Johnny also had a question. He said, how can you select which material to use to tie in an attached building? So when you have an attached building that comes into the side of another building, well, first of all, yeah, if you go ahead and put an attached building on the side here, just put the default one in there. And let's take a look at the framing.
Well, what was that?
It's there.
Oh, I should mention here, we are in beta. I'm using the beta software.
Oh. Yeah, go ahead and finish that.
Yeah, so this is not going to be, our plan is to release this evening. So we're kind of changing up things a little bit. You'll have a little bit of time to take a look on beta, but we're planning to release this evening unless something comes up like this might be a candidate. Not really sure.
No, this job is quoted.
Oh yeah, it doesn't want to let me.
So the issue here is you should not have been able to add an attached building to this. It should have said, nope, it's quoted.
Yep, it confused me there a little bit. Let's just do a start from scratch.
Yeah, Ben, we'll get to your question in a minute here.
Can you repeat this question while this is loading?
Yeah, how can you select which material to use to tie in attached building?
Okay.
So when you throw an attached building on the side of this, go and put it on, on the front or the left, either way.
Front or the left?
Or the right, or the back.
The back.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead and turn the shell off and let's look at the framing then.
So this one fell right on center.
Yep. So we do put a piece up against that wall. Go ahead and edit that and change it from 8 feet to 4 feet for the offset. Change the start to 4 foot.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So two things are happening here. One is that we do put a piece on the face of the girts on the wall it's attaching to give you something to fasten your girts to.
Talking about this
So
piece
there's
here.
that 2x there that's fastened to the face of the girts on the main wall.
Mm-hmm.
To give you something to attach the girts on the side wall to attach them to.
Yep.
So is that the piece you're talking about, Johnny? You guys can unmute if you want.
So that's not a piece you can control.
Right. I believe that piece matches the girt material. We figure you'll just throw another piece of girt material up there to attach those two.
Mm-hmm. So we could potentially have this as its own part.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe
yep,
all could be match girt, but like in this case, you might want something that fills this whole space.
Possibly.
So, I mean, that might be what Johnny's talking about.
Johnny says we do steel buildings and it normally uses the same material as the post. So are you talking about this piece on the outside here, Johnny, or the post that it puts on the inside of the building? Inside post. So it's the post inside of the building. So we do put a post there. It's an intersection post. And I believe it's just the on-center post material from the building that's being attached to. But we could have a setting for, just like we have corner posts, we could have a setting for intersection posts that would default to match wall posts.
Yeah.
That would allow you to control that. So the answer right now, Johnny, is you can't select which material to use to tie in the attached building. We just used what we thought you would want. And we were wrong. So,
well, and
yeah,
that's a
we
good
want to
example
get that. Yeah.
of the kind of
It's
thing.
a great example of, yeah, we just write this stuff. We don't actually use it. So,
Well, we're doing a refactor of how these posts work.
yeah.
So this is a good
Right.
example of how we could be more flexible with the post.
Yeah, so Megan asks, she asked, can we get rid of that altogether? And if we had the ability for you to set what to use for an intersection post, you could set it to none, and then it wouldn't put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that would solve both of those questions.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Kevin had a question. Another thing on the porches is that when I have no ceiling inside the main building, but do have ceiling material on the porch, then I'm unable to change the trim where the ceiling material meets the beam in advanced edit. Ceiling, go ahead and make it open wall. Oh, it's a porch anyway. Never mind. Yeah.
Yep.
And so if you go to this, go to advanced edit and go to the ceiling. Should be roof 5, I believe. Yeah. Roof 5. Yep. So you're talking about the trim where the ceiling material meets the beam.
Sorry, I was gone for a little bit. This is Kevin. On that, it's when on the under part of the porch, a lot of times, if they do that, they'll put a ceiling on there on the bottom of our mono trusses. And if I have a ceiling picked on that on the attached building selection, but I don't have a ceiling picked under the main building portion, then it won't, under advanced edit, it won't let me adjust the trim around the edge, like where that soffit, where that porch ceiling material would meet like a beam or something like that. Because a lot of times on part of that we'll have J channel, and so it wants to default to soffit channel. If I have a ceiling selected on the interior for the main building, then it will let me adjust that in advanced edit. But I believe, if I'm remembering right, it won't give me that option on a wall in advanced edit, or unless I have the main building picked as having a ceiling.
Okay, so go ahead and go to advanced edit. And is it the inside wall or the outside wall?
It would be the outside porch wall, like exterior 9
Okay.
in this.
EXT9, yeah. So go ahead and go to details. This would be wall trim, or
It would be the top of wall trim.
top of wall trim.
Open wall, top of wall.
Interior open wall base. Interior open wall. Okay, so we've turned it on the main building. I think I understand what's going on, Kevin. Is that we determined that, hey, you need to grade this out because you don't have ceiling, but we're not looking in the right place. We're looking at the main building and saying, hey, it doesn't have ceiling, so I'm not going to give you this option.
So I did put ceiling on.
Yeah, you put ceiling on the main building.
And then go to ceiling trim. Would you go down to ceiling trim? Is that where
That might be where it was. I might have been wrong on where that is at.
it has?
So go to advanced edit, go to EXT9, and go to ceiling trim.
Okay, I turned it off.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Details, ceiling trim.
Did I click? I thought I clicked. There we go. Ceiling trim. Grayed out.
Ceiling to wall is grayed out. Yep. So that's what you're talking about then?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
if
So
the main building picked as having a ceiling, then it's not grayed out for me.
yeah. So the workaround, we'll want to get that fixed, obviously, but the workaround for that would be go to your main building, turn on ceiling, then you can come into advanced edit, override it, and then turn the ceiling back off on the main building.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pain, but
Yeah, and it's not like a this earth-shattering issue. It's just one of those things, kind of like some of the others I picked out. It's just one of those things that might be I'd want to bring up just because it can make it nicer if it is eventually noticed.
yeah, no, it's great to have those because frankly, after working on dormers for 6 days straight, it's nice to have a little break and go fix something that's going to make somebody happy. So
Yeah.
keep those things coming, and those are great ones, by the way, to just send into to support and say, look, I can't change the ceiling trim settings on a wall if I don't have, unless I have ceiling on the main building. So, and that's, oh, duh. Yeah, we should probably fix that. So we can get that handled.
Mm-hmm.
And then Johnny asked if gutters and downspouts are coming anytime soon. And all I can say is, yes, within the next couple of years, we will have them. But
Sooner.
I'm sure it'll be much sooner than that. But I can guarantee in the next couple of years, we'll have them.
I would look the next 6 months.
Yeah, I would say probably by the end of the year, we should have gutters and downspouts. They're on the list. Obviously, they're very complicated. And so, we're looking at all the ramifications of them. And, gutters on this building would be one thing. Gutters on a building with overhangs is another. Downspouts. Gutters is pretty straightforward. It's just basically a piece of trim you stick on the end outside the fascia on an eave wall. But downspouts is another. We could do it in the sense of, hey, you put in the maximum length for a downspout, and if your length of gutter is more than that length, then it'll get 2 downspouts, and if it's more than twice that length, it'll get 3 downspouts. But then, downspouts you kind of want them to be at the corner of the building. So I suspect when we do gutters and downspouts, everybody's going to go, hey, that's really great. Now, can you put the downspout over here instead of over here? So that's the scary part about that one. Yeah, and then there's just so many options for, the gutter and how it looks, and even the downspouts. How do you put those downspouts together? If I was going to do it, I would look at things like, yeah, you can do a seamless gutter, but you typically don't do a seamless downspout. It's 2 elbows and a drop and another elbow at least. So, what are all those parts and pieces, and how do they all fit together? It's a big project, but it is definitely on the list. And just being able to show something on the 3D model, so when the customer looks at it, they can go, oh, look, there's my downspouts. Cool. That I think is going to be a lot of benefit there. Let's see, backing up a little bit here. Ben had a question. Is it possible to have the outputs come out as Excel instead of Word? It depends on the output. There are lots of different outputs, and all of them are different. We have talked in the past.
Material list comes out as Excel.
Well, it comes out as a CSV file, which you can then open in Excel. I believe. So what kind of outputs? Yeah, which output would you like to come out as Excel? And yeah, you can't get outputs if you're So obviously the sheeting drawings, the wall layouts, the post layout, you could output them in Excel, but that's a whole different can of worms.
That might be part of the request.
Yeah, so that's what we would want to get more information on. We do have an Excel workbook that you could download for a job.
Yeah, so these are mostly the materials. We have materials in this format, and we have had requests for sheeting drawings, panel drawings, different things in Excel.
Yeah, we've also had requests for, just like we have document token uploads, or document template uploads, if they could upload a Excel template upload, and then we would take that Excel template and replace all the tokens in there.
Yeah, we do have that on the list.
Yeah, so Ben, what I can say there is if you have specific outputs that you'd like to come out in Excel instead of Word, let us know what those are. And, we can factor that into a discussion about Excel outputs. Yeah, so he said, thinking more for the quote outputs. So effectively, if you had the ability to say, look, I want to upload a document, I can upload a document template, but I'd like to upload an Excel template instead. Then that would be something that we'd have to work out how that would work. It gets pretty complicated, unfortunately. We do have the Material Excel workbook. Go ahead and download one of those, Sean. So I don't know if you guys are using these, but this is one that you can output right now. And if there's some tweaking that we could do to this to make it suitable to use for a quote output, we'd certainly be amenable to that. But right now, this is sort of fixed. So there's all your job questions. You get all your materials for your various categories. A whole bunch of columns. So if you had the ability to control the columns that were included here, would this be useful for you? I'm sure this is not very good as a quote, because if you go back to the summary, right there, it shows your cost and your price. You probably don't want to show the cost on a quote. It's usually not a good sales tool. So that's an option. If you wanted to be able to, don't laugh at me. If you wanted to be able to use this as a quote output, and if you said to me, hey, if you just got rid of the cost column here and on all of the other pages, this would be perfect, I would love it, then that's something we could definitely do. It's when we talk about being able to upload a template that it becomes much more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I would say take a look at that, Ben, and if that would work for you, if we just changed a few things, let us know what you'd like to change, and we'll make those options in the Excel output template, or the Excel output setup, and then you'll be on your way. So anyone else who has, you know, similar desires, you know, let us know what they are. Keith will tell you, I've always said I'm omnipotent, but not omniscient. You can do anything you want, but you need to tell me what it is. So let us know what you need, and we will make it so, if it's within our power. All right? Let's see, did we have anything?
I think, did you answer Megan's question, Mark? Pertaining to the post that is behind attached buildings?
Yeah, it was basically, if we took Johnny's question of, hey, how do I control what that material is? If we give you the material to control, what do I use for an intersection post? Then Johnny could say, I want to use this material, and Megan could say, I want to use none.
Yeah.
Solve them both. Okay.
All right, anything else? It's a lot of good feedback. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, anybody? Mark, Paul, anything else come in?
No, nothing else.
Just a thank you from Ben. So everyone have a great week, and hopefully, if nothing goes completely south, this version will be up on the live site tomorrow morning when you show up.
Yeah, and on that, guys, I would like to invite everybody to go to beta. Go to the beta site. I'll put the link in the chat. Just to give it a going over once today at least. Let us know as quick as you can if you find something that you see that needs changed or something. But I put the link in the chat. That should take you to your beta site, your login.
Yep. Just keep in mind that is beta. It's a completely different site. It looks very similar. It has a lot of the same data, but it is not, you will lose anything you do in there. Just a warning, just to keep your eye out for this beta sign up here. If you're in the beta, you are not working on your live site.
It's a complete and total different site, and we did make a copy of it just about 2 weeks ago. So it's up to date up to 2 weeks ago, but it won't be updated for another month or so. So whatever your live system was showing about 2 weeks ago, that's what you'll be able to get, plus all the new stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to go up there and try it out, especially because we've got people like Johnny who does steel buildings, and you know everyone does things a little bit differently, and so we can't go in and test a new version with everyone's settings. And so if we can catch things before we go out with the live site, then that is much better, because we don't interrupt your production work day to day. Right.
Yeah.
The areas that are kind of nebulous for us to be able to get are things like assemblies, packages, because all the different calculations that all the different customers do, outputs, just go through the pricing and make sure that whenever you do your outputs, you see the pricing and information you expect.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't take a ton of time. A fairly typical job that if you kind of just do a sanity check
Sure.
on it, that would really help us out. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.